Exactly. All right, so the Minister and I are having a conversation about our shoes. So I suppose it's all got to do with small business, doesn't it? If you're a shoe manufacturer and you make these shoes, why not? It's all good. Yeah. Okay, 9 minutes to the top of the hour. Small Business Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu will, in partnership with the Small Business Development Institute and the City of Ekurhuleni, host the 5th National SMME Policy Colloquium from today until tomorrow. So this year's colloquium will be held under the theme THUMA-MINA, creating and supporting economically active and viable township and rural economies. The Minister is in studio with me. Good to see you, Minister. Thanks so much for coming in.
Always good to see you. Thank you for the invitation.
So let's begin with, we've just left off a conversation now with Sakina and her guest talking about the budget. And, you know, budget, small businesses, it's important. What's your feedback to it?
Yes, I think that we're slowly moving towards the understanding of the role of small and medium enterprises and the need to support small and medium enterprises at all levels. But also we're moving towards an understanding that opportunities for small and medium enterprises will be created within government, but also will be created by the private sector. Yeah. We're also moving to a point where almost everybody in government, all ministers in government, working with us as a Department of Small Business Development, see the opportunity and the impact of what small businesses could do in terms of creating jobs, dealing with the issue of poverty and unemployment and inequality. So I'm happy, not entirely, not yet there, but I'm happy with what I see progressing within government and the attitude towards the support for small and medium enterprises.
All right, well, we'll leave it there and just hope, because I think, you know, we've always said it, it's the heartbeat of the economy. This is something that desperately needs an injection and needs to be helped, and hence the colloquium, and that's where we're sitting now. So it starts today, the 5th colloquium. What did you say have been some of the significant things that have come out of it over the years?
Firstly is the dialogue that needs to continue, because in order for us to be able to develop the interventions that would really have the necessary impact, we need to continue having this kind of dialogue. So these 500 participants who are going to be there are going to be building up from previous colloquiums, and this time around the colloquium is going to be focusing particularly on the outcomes of the Jobs Summit. We'll also focus in the upcoming investment summit, which is coming up, but it will also focus on what we think we need both for government to do in the creation of conducive environment for SMMEs, but what SMMEs themselves have to do. Because sometimes we keep talking about SMMEs, talking about what government has to do, talking about what the private sector have to do, without necessarily going deeper into what SMMEs and cooperatives themselves have to do to empower themselves so that they can be ready for opportunities when they present themselves.
So THUMA-MINA, creating and supporting economically active and viable township and rural economies. What is the state of township and rural economies as we look at it now?
It's dire, as far as I'm concerned. It's dire, and what also makes it dire is the fact that the infrastructure development is not what it is supposed to be. When SMMEs have to be traveling from one place to the other, the transport is also, the infrastructure for transport is very expensive for many of them. First and foremost, what is important that this colloquium will have to discuss, does the structure of the economy of South Africa enable small and medium enterprises? Does the financial institutions and everybody enable the growth of small and medium enterprises? But does government give enough attention to those areas like red tape, those areas like legislation and regulation? Part of what we're going to be discussing, by the way, is the Small Business Development Act, which in our view needs to be completely overhauled because it has to take into consideration the current situation. We have to deal with a definition of SMMEs. We still are using the old, and the world has moved very fast. So we need to catch up with all those. But also we have to discuss about external possibilities. If we talk about the investment summit, what are investors looking for? Are they actually going to be looking at investing in small businesses, or is it going to be the usual, talking about big companies, talking about big investments?
Yeah, because the small businesses struggle. They struggle to survive. But if we look at the townships, and particularly in the townships, I mean, we have stories all the time of foreign-owned shops that are being targeted. They're being vandalized. They're being destroyed. How safe is it to do business in the townships?
It is not as safe as it is supposed to be. That's why our view as a department is that collectively we must create a conducive environment. What is creating a conducive environment? It's about ensuring that the infrastructure is right. Part of the infrastructure is about ensuring that there is security. And I think as South Africans, we also need to wake up to the reality that the world is not waiting for us anymore. The world has supported us throughout the struggle and ensuring that there's change, ensuring that there's democracy. Our view is that we collectively, from civil society to business, big business, to small business, to government, we have to continue looking for the best mechanisms of supporting small and medium enterprise, whether it's financial, non-financial, but more than anything else is a conducive environment. Yeah. If there's no conducive environment, you can pass the best legislation that you want. It's not going to help the situation on the ground.
No, certainly. And also, we're seeing this happening on the back of the job summit that we recently saw and concluded. And, you know, the idea is to create interventions, proposed interventions to stimulate the economy. Our president obviously emphasizing this, and the emphasis on small jobs, I mean small businesses. But talk to us about this. How are the two linked?
The two are very linked, because if you support small businesses, irrespective of color, by the way, in South Africa we still have that problem, that most of the SMMEs that are black-owned, that are women-owned, that are youth-owned, they struggle. But if we were to support them, it would mean that they would create more jobs. That's at the center of everything. And when we're talking about creation of jobs, it's jobs, because people are also going to be able to make a decision whether they want to go look for a job or they want to start something when they have something in their hand. You cannot start that. So the focus on enterprise development, the focus on small and medium enterprises, the focus on informal business, by the way, Leanne, because as a department we have identified that the informal business, which then brings us to the issue of the spaza shops and so forth and the attacks that keep on going, we've also realized that South Africans who are in that space, in the townships and rural areas, need to be supported so that we don't have people renting their homes instead of being the ones that are actually running those spaza shops. But it's all got to do with education too. It's all got to do with confidence too. It's all got to do with an understanding that if you have a business acumen, how do you get that business acumen? Firstly, it's for you to be able to recognize the opportunities on the ground, but even if you recognize the opportunities, how to go about. Yeah. That's why you have a Department of Small Business Development with its entities, both CEDA and CIFA, to just continuously look for best opportunities. And I don't think we must also be too hard on ourselves and think that this would have been perfect within these 25 years. It's going to take us quite a while to make sure, but for me, it's about empowering people to make the right decisions for themselves, find the opportunities for themselves. And therefore, small businesses and cooperatives, they need to look at what came out of the Job Summit, who made promises at the Job Summit. Let's look at what's going to come out now at the Investment Summit. Let's look at whether the investors, when they come here, they are going to be interested in investing in small and medium enterprises. Some of them complain about our policies, complain about BEE, complain about supplier development and all that. They also need to have an appreciation that we are building a country here. We are building a new nation. They have to consider those facts, and we're going to help them in the best way we can, because they want returns for their investments.
They certainly do, and also this year is a partnership with the Small Business Development Institute as well. We're entering into news time, so I won't be able to talk too much about that. But this is a big move, and it's happening today, finishing tomorrow. and it's at the Birchwood Hotel in Boksburg. It's obviously by invitation, or can small businesses...
It's by invitation, but firstly also I'd like to thank the Small Business Development Institute and Xolani Qubeka in particular, because he's really been consistent with it. It's the 5th one, and I know that he goes through hassles to put it together and all that, because putting that together also needs resources. Yeah. But he's done a good job, and we'd like to thank him for partnering with us.
Minister, thank you very much for talking to us. The Minister of Small Business Development, Lindiwe Zulu, talking to us about the 5th National SMME Policy Colloquium that starts today. It's 8 o'clock. Let's get your news.